All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking official safety data and research and transforming it into your ultimate survival toolkit. We're going to break down the raw, unrelenting physics of disasters, dismantle a few common myths that could literally cost you your life, and finally, build a rock-solid communication strategy straight from the experts at the National Weather Service, Ready.gov, and top engineering researchers. Let's get into it. Okay, let's kick things off with a number that honestly kind of blew my mind. It takes just 6 inches of fast-moving floodwater to knock a fully grown adult right off their feet. Just 6 inches. That is barely halfway up your calf. We tend to really overtrust our own strength and stability, but the physical force of moving water is incredibly deceptive. When you're staring down a flooded roadway or a swollen creek, it is virtually impossible to judge the depth or the current. So this simple, terrifying little statistic really sets the tone for everything we are going to talk about today. Nature absolutely does not care how strong you think you are. To get you fully prepped, we're going to hit 4 main things today. Nature's deadly physics, debunking some wild lightning myths, how you actually receive warnings, and finally, building out your family communication plan. So let's jump right into part 1, nature's deadly physics. We see it on the news all the time, right? Someone in a massive, heavy SUV decides to just plow through a flooded road because they figure the sheer weight of the thing keeps them safe. Well, the science says otherwise. Because of their larger tires and overall massive size, SUVs are actually way more buoyant. They act literally like boats. As the water gets deeper, that water, sand, and mud completely replaces the friction holding your tires to the road. The bottom line here, it is just as dangerous to drive an SUV through floodwaters as it is a tiny regular car. If you can't see the lines on the road, turn around. It's that simple. Okay, check this out. This data from a Texas Tech University study looks at how stuff flies around in severe winds. They broke debris down into 3 shapes: a 3D cube, a 1D rod, and a 2D sheet. Think like a piece of corrugated roofing. Look really closely at the data for that 2D sheet. The researchers found that its relative maximum flight speed approaches 0.5, meaning it reaches roughly half the prevailing wind speed. So if you're caught in a hurricane or tornado with 100-mile-per-hour winds, a jagged piece of heavy sheet metal could be flying through the air at 50 miles per hour. That is exactly why wind penetrating the building envelope is so deadly, and why you absolutely have to stay inside, far away from windows.
Moving right along to Section 2, Debunking Lightning Myths.
Remember being told, maybe back in scout camp or by your parents, that if you're caught outside in a storm, you should make yourself as small as possible by crouching down? Well, scratch that. It is a complete myth. You are just not safe anywhere outdoors. If you're outside and you hear thunder, lying flat or crouching actually increases your exposure to potentially deadly ground currents. Your only acceptable move here is to stay on your feet and run immediately to a substantial building or a hard-topped vehicle.
And get this, lightning doesn't even need rain or dark clouds right above you to find you. Have you ever heard the phrase bolt from the blue? It's a real, documented meteorological phenomenon. Lightning often strikes more than 3 miles from the center of a storm, completely outside the rainy area. In fact, these bolts can strike 10 to 15 miles away from the actual thunderstorm. You could literally be standing under a crystal clear blue sky at a baseball game, but if you can hear thunder rumbling in the distance, you are already in the strike zone.
Now this next one is absolutely crucial, and honestly tragic that it's still a myth. People fear that touching a lightning strike victim will electrocute them. Imagine someone dying simply because bystanders were too afraid to give them CPR. The human body is not a battery. It does not store electricity. If someone is struck, they are not electrified. It is 100% perfectly safe to touch them and give first aid right away. Just make sure you move yourself and the victim to a safe location quickly to avoid a secondary strike.
All right, on to part 3, receiving the warning.
So we basically have 2 main tools in our arsenal here: the classic NOAA weather radio and the modern smartphone apps we all carry. Both of these deliver severe weather warnings, and both can jolt you awake at 3 a.m. if a tornado is heading for your neighborhood. But they do their jobs in totally different ways, with very different strengths. And figuring out how they work together is a huge part of staying safe. Let's look at the classic NOAA radio first. This thing is basically your absolute last line of defense. Why? Because it broadcasts on a completely separate, dedicated radio network of over 1,000 towers across the country. When a huge disaster hits, the power grid drops, cell towers get completely jammed or literally ripped apart, and your shiny smartphone becomes a very expensive paperweight. But that battery-powered weather radio, it keeps on ticking.
Plus, its overnight reliability is just unmatched. When a warning hits your county, the radio screams to life even from standby mode, totally bypassing any do not disturb settings that might keep your phone silent. On the flip side, phone apps are your daily drivers. They go wherever you go. While your weather radio is sitting on your nightstand, your phone is at work or in the car, giving you location-aware alerts. Apps also give you the visual context. You get the radar, those warning polygons, and exactly where the storm is headed. And while a radio only alerts for the specific county you program it for, an app can track multiple places. You can know if a flood threatens your house, your office, and your kid's school all at once. The pro move, use both, the app for daily context and the radio for that absolute fail-safe backup. Which brings us to a final section, Part 4, Building Your Communication Plan. All right, everything starts with a really simple but kind of scary question. What if? What if things go sideways on a random Tuesday afternoon? You're stuck at work, your partner is across town, the kids are at school. Communication networks, cell phones, internet, they notoriously crash during disasters. The power's out. Will you be able to reach them? How are you going to know they're okay? Answering that single what if is the entire foundation of emergency prep.
Ready.gov breaks this down into 3 super easy, actionable steps. Step 1, collect. You've got to write down all the phone numbers and emails for your household, plus the kids' schools, doctors, and caregivers. Step 2, share. Make sure everybody actually has a copy. And step 3, which is where almost everybody drops the ball, practice. You can't just write this stuff down and shove it in a junk drawer. You have to physically practice texting, calling, and meeting up until it's basically muscle memory. And yes, I mean everyone needs to carry a physical, actual paper copy of the plan in their wallet or backpack. Why paper? Because guess what? Cell phones don't swim, and their batteries definitely die. If you drop your phone in those 6 inches of floodwater we talked about, or it just dies because the power's been out for days, you are going to need to borrow a phone. I challenge you, try getting your family tonight to recite important phone numbers from memory. You'll see real quick why having it written down is an absolute must.
Here's a massive technological reality you need to know during an emergency, leading to one official golden rule. Text is best. Literally. When a disaster strikes, every single person tries to call their family at the exact same moment. The local cell towers get completely gridlocked. But a text message, it requires a tiny fraction of the bandwidth of a voice call. Not only will a text slip through a jammed network much easier, but your phone will also save the text and automatically push it through the very second capacity opens up. Keep it super brief. I'm okay, at library. It saves network space and it saves your battery life.
Now, if the phones are totally dead, you've got to know where to actually meet up. You need to pick out 4 familiar designated spots. Number 1, indoor, like an interior windowless closet if there's a tornado. Number 2, neighborhood, like a specific mailbox or the neighbor's house if, say, you have a house fire. Number 3, out of neighborhood, a library or community center if you can't even get down your street. And number 4, out of town, like a relative's house if your whole community has to evacuate. Every single person in the family needs to know exactly how to get to these 4 spots.
Now look at the middle part here, the out-of-town contact. This is a real game changer. During a localized disaster, the local phone lines are just completely jammed up. But those long-distance lines, they're often wide open. It is actually way easier for you and your family to make a long-distance call to Aunt Susan 3 states over than it is to call each other across town. Aunt Susan essentially becomes your central communication hub. You all call her, and she relays the messages that everyone is safe and sound.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I'm going to leave you with one final thought to get you moving today. Who is your out-of-town emergency contact? And more importantly, do they actually know they're your contact? Because a plan is really only as good as the people who are in on it. When the sky turns dark and the cell service drops, will your family know exactly what to do, or will you just be left hoping for the best? Make the plan, stay safe, and take action today.